They told him it was impossible, ridiculous even. No one in their right mind puts a heavyweight titan from the golden era of boxing in the same cage as a modern MMA phenom. But here we are, standing on the edge of combat history, watching two worlds collide in a showdown that defies logic and challenges everything we thought we knew about fighting. On one side, the name alone echoes through time. Mike Tyson. Not just a fighter, but a symbol of raw power, chaos, and unmatched intensity. The youngest heavyweight champion ever, feared by his opponents before the bell even rang. And on the other side, Aaron Pico, a different kind of storm. Precision-built, ruthlessly trained, and carrying the full evolution of mixed martial arts in his veins. A new breed, forged in the fires of wrestling, boxing, and grit. This isn't just a fantasy matchup. It's a question no one dared to ask out loud, until now. What happens when the fury of the past meets the fire of the future? When a wrecking ball forged in Brooklyn steps into the cage with a fighter sculpted by science, obsession, and the unforgiving rhythm of modern competition. Tyson brings that unpredictable thunder, that raw explosiveness that made grown men crumble in seconds. But Pico, he's not walking in blind. Every movement, every faint twitch of Tyson's shoulder has been studied, dissected, analyzed. This isn't just sport. It's strategy. It's survival. From the moment this fight was announced, the fight world erupted. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Pundits, trainers, even retired legends couldn't help but weigh in. Tyson lands one shot. It's over, they said. But what if he doesn't? Others asked, and that's the razor-thin line this entire story balances on. Power versus preparation. Instinct versus evolution. And all of it coming down to one moment, under the unforgiving lights, where there's no more theory, only truth. It's easy to forget, in all the noise, who these men really are beneath the headlines. Tyson, despite the chaos that often followed him outside the ring, carries a complex legacy. A man who rose from devastating hardship, fought his demons in the public eye, and still cast a shadow over the sport long after hanging up his gloves. And Pico, he's not just another prospect. He was built for this. A wrestling prodigy at a young age, then seamlessly transitioning into boxing. His hands sharpened with the kind of precision that belongs in highlight reels. He's been fighting expectations as much as opponents, carrying the weight of being the future since before he could legally drink. There's a brutal honesty to fights like this. No politics, no posturing. Just two fighters stepping into the unknown, guided by instinct, pride, and the refusal to back down. Tyson doesn't just fight. He devours space. He closes distance with terrifying speed, punishes hesitation, and prides in that half-second of uncertainty. But the cage isn't the ring. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to reset. And Pico knows that better than anyone. He's trained for angles, for leverage, for the exact kind of chaos Tyson creates. He's not trying to match power with power. He's trying to outthink it, outlast it, while still knowing that one wrong move could mean lights out. Even the training camps leading up to this fight tell a story. Tyson surrounded himself with old-school warriors, men who believe in pain over performance metrics. Heavy bags, endless sparring, grueling days that break most men. No shortcuts, just pain and repetition. Meanwhile, Pico's camp looks like something out of a high-tech lab, tracking every heartbeat, analyzing every strike, fine-tuning his body like a machine. But you can't simulate Tyson's presence. You can't manufacture that primal danger he brings just by being in the room. And that's the X factor no coach, no blueprint can fully prepare for. Every eye will be watching when the cage door shuts, some hoping to witness a resurrection. Tyson proving that the old ways still have a place in this new world. Others looking for the torch to finally pass, for Pico to deliver the performance that cements his status as more than just hype. But this isn't a clean transfer. It's a violent exchange. Someone has to fall for the other to rise. You can almost hear it now. The roar of the crowd, the tension snapping like wires ready to burst, the impossible silence in that first face-off. Tyson's eyes locked in, cold, reading everything. Pico, calm but alert, measuring the rhythm, waiting for the break in the storm. There's no script, no second takes, just the raw truth of what happens when two eras of violence meet at full speed. And just as the ref steps in, giving final instructions, Tyson leans in slightly, just enough to break the invisible boundary. Pico doesn't flinch, not even a blink. It's the kind of moment that shifts everything, not just in the fight, but in the story. The crowd senses it. Something just changed. Something you can't explain, but can't ignore. And before the bell rings, Tyson smirks. Not a smile, not arrogance, but something deeper. A quiet acknowledgement. As if to say, you don't know what's coming, but you're about to. There was a strange calm in the air right before the bell, almost like time stretched itself thin, holding its breath as if it knew this wasn't just a fight, but something more primal, something that would echo long after the final blow. And when it rang, the world didn't just watch. They leaned in. Tyson moved first, cutting the distance in a blink, his movement still laced with that explosive threat, like he was trying to erase the years with each step. But Pico didn't retreat. He circled with poise, drawing a line between respect and fear, refusing to surrender ground to a man whose presence alone could make lesser fighters freeze. They clashed faster than anyone expected. Tyson's left came screaming through the air. Not a wild swing, but a calculated missile aimed just under Pico's guard. It missed by centimeters, but that was enough to wake everyone up. This wasn't some exhibition. This was real. And Pico, instead of backing off, answered with a counter so slick, so sudden, it brushed Tyson's chin and drew the first real reaction from the legend. Not pain, not surprise, but approval. For a split second, you could see it in Tyson's eyes. This kid wasn't here to play defense. What no one expected was what came next. Just 2 minutes into the first round, as they exchanged at the center, Tyson slipped, not from a strike, but from the mat, damp with sweat from the undercard fights. His right foot slid just enough to throw his balance, and Pico, ever the tactician, pounced. Not recklessly, not with panic, but with the instincts of a fighter who knows opportunities like this are rare. He feeded high and drove a vicious knee toward the body, catching Tyson in motion, forcing him to clinch just to slow things down. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. The legend was in trouble early, not from power, but from pace. What made it even more electric was how Tyson responded. Instead of panic, he leaned into the chaos. Inside the clinch, he threw short hooks to the ribs, subtle but thudding. The crowd didn't notice them at first, but Pico did. His breath changed slightly, just enough to show they mattered. Then, out of nowhere, Tyson attempted something no one saw coming. A dirty boxing uppercut that transitioned into a half-trip. The technique was awkward, imperfect, but it almost worked. The fact that Tyson even attempted it sent shockwaves through the commentary desk. He was adapting. He wasn't here just to brawl. He came to fight smart. And that's when the unexpected twist dropped like a bolt through the arena. Backstage, cameras caught a moment no one in the crowd saw. Pico's corner was unusually tense. Whispers between coaches, glances toward a medical staffer, and a hastily muffled conversation about something affecting his last few weeks of camp. Apparently, Pico had been dealing with a rib injury. Nothing severe enough to pull out, but enough to compromise certain movements. And now, with Tyson landing those short, punishing hooks to the body, it was like watching a secret unravel in real time. Tyson didn't know the specifics, but his instincts told him something was off. That's what made him dangerous. He could sense the cracks before they were visible. Meanwhile, inside the cage, the tide was shifting. Tyson was no longer chasing knockouts. He was aiming with intent, each punch carving deeper into the story behind Pico's breathing. But Pico wasn't backing down. If anything, he doubled down on speed, throwing rapid combinations to keep Tyson off balance, peppering his legs with kicks that forced the older fighter to adjust his stance. It was a chess match wrapped in a street fight, and both men were bleeding data from every exchange. And then came the moment that left everyone stunned. Late in the second round, just when it seemed Tyson had found a rhythm, Pico changed levels and went for a takedown. Not his usual double leg. A single-leg high-speed entry that drove Tyson toward the fence with a surprising level of control. The crowd gasped, not because Pico shot, but because he was trying to drag Mike Tyson to the ground. For a brief flash, Tyson flailed, unprepared for the technique, his back touching the cage, his left hand grabbing for underhooks. It was the most vulnerable he had looked all night. But that's where it turned again. Just before Pico could complete the takedown, Tyson used sheer brute force to create separation, something almost no one expected. He sprawled, twisted, and threw a hammering forearm across Pico's shoulder that disrupted the grip entirely. In that moment, you could feel the pulse of every person watching Spike. This wasn't going to be a clean fight. It was going to get messy, wild, unpredictable. And yet, that's what made it so irresistible. The cameras cut to Pico's corner between rounds, concern etched on every face. The lead coach leaned in close, speaking just loud enough for the mic to catch fragments. "He's onto the ribs. You got one more round to flip this." But it wasn't just physical. The mental pressure was mounting. Tyson, despite the age difference, wasn't fading. If anything, he was feeding off the chaos. His confidence grew with every clash, and the fire behind those eyes, so familiar, so feared, had begun to smolder again. And now, with the third round seconds away, both men stood ready in their corners. No more smiling. No more measuring. Just grit. Pico touched his side subtly, then shook it off. Tyson bounced lightly, rolling his shoulders with a look that said he wasn't just trying to win, he was hunting. The third round opened like a storm waiting to break. Tyson charged, but not recklessly. He pressed forward with a pace that blurred the line between aggression and control, reading Pico's angles, testing his reactions. The younger fighter adjusted quickly, switching stances, firing off leg kicks with urgency. There was no feeling out process anymore. They were deep in the fire now, and both knew it. No more hiding, no more room for mistakes. Pico's left hand dropped for a second too long, and Tyson launched a right hook that missed by inches, but sent sweat flying into the front row. You could feel the weight of every strike now, not just in sound, but in the tension it created, like the cage was too small to contain them. Then, just when it looked like Tyson had seized control again, Pico did something no one saw coming. With his back to the fence and Tyson inching closer, Pico feigned a jab and leaped, not forward, but up. A flying knee, sharp and sudden, clipped the top of Tyson's temple. It wasn't flush, but it was enough to stagger him. The crowd rose as one, gasping, screaming, not sure if they'd just seen the beginning of the end. But Tyson didn't fall. He stumbled back, stunned, his balance compromised for only a second, and that second was all Pico needed. With laser precision, he surged forward with a flurry. Right hook, left straight, body shot, leg kick. It was a storm of technique, calculated and wild at once. Tyson covered up, retreating toward the cage, but not in fear. He was calculating, waiting for an opening. And just as Pico moved in to capitalize, Tyson unleashed a counter from the depths. A left uppercut from a low angle, forged in instinct and memory. It caught Pico under the chin and stopped him cold. His knees buckled, his guard faltered, and the crowd erupted in chaos. Tyson didn't pounce immediately. He watched, measured, knew that charging in too soon could cost him everything. Pico, somehow, held on. He clinched, clung to Tyson like it was the only thing keeping him upright. They wrestled against the cage, neither able to impose complete control. Tyson dug to the body again, those same devastating short hooks that had been quietly setting the stage for 3 rounds. And Pico, through sheer force of will, reversed the position and shoved Tyson off him. There was blood now. Pico's lip, Tyson's eyebrow. Both men were worn, breathing heavy, eyes narrowed, and the clock ticked mercilessly downward, pushing them closer to the final bell. Everyone watching knew this fight could end in the next 10 seconds, or it could go to the judges with both men somehow still standing. Either way, something unforgettable was about to happen. Then it did. With only 20 seconds left, Pico faked a level change, drawing Tyson's guard low. He spun into a wild back elbow, flashy, dangerous, and incredibly risky. Tyson ducked it, not by chance, but by instinct, like he'd seen the entire thing coming a beat before it happened. And as Pico over-rotated, Tyson stepped in and delivered a short right hook that detonated on the side of Pico's head. It wasn't the most powerful punch of the night, but it was clean, it was timed perfectly, and it sent Pico crashing to the canvas. The crowd exploded. The commentary team lost their minds, but Tyson didn't celebrate. He stood over Pico, waiting for the ref, his chest heaving, eyes locked on the downed warrior. The official dove in, waved it off, and just like that, it was over. The arena shook with noise. People cried out in disbelief, admiration, shock. Tyson, at 58 years old, had just stopped one of the sport's most dynamic young fighters in a moment that would be replayed forever. But it wasn't just the finish that stunned the world. It was what came next. As medics checked on Pico, Tyson knelt beside him, whispered something no mic could catch, and helped him to his feet. The two embraced, and for a moment, it didn't matter who won. The fight wasn't about dominance. It was about evolution. It was about bridging eras through something deeper than words or history books could explain. But the final twist hadn't revealed itself yet. Backstage, as Tyson walked through the tunnel, he paused and called over his coach. Cameras caught the exchange, brief but revealing. "That was the last one," Tyson said, voice steady. "But not for me." Confused, his coach asked what he meant. Tyson smiled, eyes tired but lit with something bigger than victory. "I'm passing it to him," he said. "Pico's gonna be a monster after this. He just doesn't know it yet." And just like that, the fight wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. The legacy Tyson built didn't fade in that cage. It multiplied. He didn't just win. He changed the trajectory of another warrior's path. The same way Cus saw him years ago, Tyson saw it now in Pico. A storm still forming. A career not broken by loss, but defined by how he gets up from it. The world came for violence, for a fantasy clash between two eras. What they got was something rare. A moment that transcended hype and became history. And as the final images rolled across screens worldwide, Tyson raising Pico's hand, the crowd still roaring, you could feel it. This wasn't just a fight. It was a reminder of why we watch, why we believe, and why, sometimes, the most powerful blows aren't the ones that land, but the ones that change everything after.